This morning, a CBC News exclusive. Dozens of Korean-Canadian adoptees are questioning their origins amid growing fears their paperwork may have been falsified, something done seemingly to make them appear more adoptable to Canadians. CBC investigative reporter Priscilla Kisan-Huang joins me in studio. Kisan, welcome first of all. I know that you've been speaking to a number of Korean adoptees. What's at the heart of this issue?
Well, Heather, these adoptees grew up believing they were orphans, and that's because of these. They're called, in short, orphan papers, legal documents signed off by South Korean authorities, one that all Korean adoptees arrived in Canada with. These papers designate them as orphans, officially cutting them off from any possible family members in Korea. And now adoptees around the world and here in Canada are questioning these very records, and some told us they now believe Korean authorities falsified them. Here's one adoptee who reunited with his birth mother and found out that he was secretly taken from her.
Everybody was abandoned. Everybody had their name made up and everybody's birthday was presumed, and I really thought I was unique. And then to find out that all these Koreans went through the same thing as I did, lied to the same way, having these documents that we held on to so dearly and they're all false. That part's very frustrating.
So those are the stories, Kisong, and the allegations, and then you looked into this further. What more did your investigation uncover?
We dug through thousands of pages of declassified documents at the National Archives in Ottawa and found that Canadian officials were warned of possible red flags. There was one case in 1974, a toddler kidnapped in South Korea, then adopted to a family in BC. The province at the time called on the federal government to launch a full-scale inquiry into all Korean adoptions, but we couldn't find evidence of such a sweeping investigation, and the waves of Korean children continued into Canada, about 3,000 of them since the 1960s. This adoption historian explains why that might have happened.
The Canadian government had to catch up and get involved, I think maybe for fear of an international incident or deciding they wanted to regulate things. And so I think that early stage of sort of 1960s through to the late 1970s was the government following up, but always late to the game.
What is the current government saying about all of this?
Well, over in South Korea, they've launched a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and it's now looking into the cases of hundreds of adoptees around the world. It's investigating possible human rights violations as well as falsification of adoption paperwork. And here in Canada, Global Affairs Canada told us it's monitoring that inquiry, but the government did not comment on the calls from Korean-Canadian adoptees for an internal investigation here.
Thank you very much for bringing us that investigation, Priscilla Kisan-Huang. And if you want to read more about this, there is a full investigation online, interactive feature up this morning that you can spend a considerable amount of time on, the stories and the paperwork. It's all up at CBCNews.ca this morning.